Hello, everyone. Welcome to What the Fantasy. I am Brandon Hay at HeyB3.
Good evening. My name is Zareh at ZCantsFF on Twitter.
And thank you for joining us. This is our second week of streaming, our third episode. And like we did last week, we started off with some Kenny Gainwell Love Fest. And I think we communicated better this week. So I will let you go ahead with the Kenny Gainwell stats of the week.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, I'm glad to have come, with all the proper tools for the job today. I like this. I like this stat here. This is interesting. Kenny Gainwell in high school was a 3-year starter at quarterback for the Panthers. His high school mascot. As a junior, as a quarterback, he passed for 1,184 yards and 9 touchdowns. He also rushed as a quarterback for 1,292 yards and 20 touchdowns. In his senior year in high school, he passed for 1,139 yards, surpassing his current career high in high school, and he passed for 10 touchdowns. He also ran for 1,834 yards, so about 600 more yards, and he rushed for 32 touchdowns. Damn, dude. Damn. 32 touchdowns as a quarterback. So, yeah, that's pretty impressive. I think it just compounds into the Gainwell love for the show, and it just sends out the energy to Gainwell, just the positive energy that hopefully we can get him on the show for 5-10 minutes, whatever. But, he's a multifaceted and talented athlete. And, the love is proper over here. It's for good reasons. So that's your fact for the week.
That is some great stats and facts for Kenny Gainwell, and I keep on tagging him when I post stuff from either the pod account or my account. So hopefully, if we do it enough times, he will respond and eventually come on the show. And also for anyone that's listening that doesn't know, we created a Twitter for What the Fantasy, and it's linked on both of our Twitter, so you can go to that. So now continuing on, let's go into some NFL news. We have a few things that have happened in the last couple of days. And first off, the Minnesota Vikings signed D.D. Westbrook, formerly of the Jacksonville Jaguars. So I don't think we'll necessarily agree. When I put this on the show sheet, you gave me a hard no. So I'll let you go into how you feel about D.D. Westbrook.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't really seen a third wide receiver under Mike Zimmer during his tenure there, which has been for about 6 years now. We haven't really seen a third wide receiver been of any fantasy relevance during his time there. I like D.D. Westbrook. I've always liked him as a player on the Jags. He's almost had moments where he's been relevant. We've seen flashes from him. I think he's always going to be relegated to that third wide receiver position. If we look at the Vikings pass attempts, their median pass attempts under Mike Zimmer is about 525 pass attempts per year. I mean, that's kind of middle of the pack. Their highest amount of pass attempts was 606 pass attempts back in 2016, and the closest, or 2018. And like I said, yeah, so it's 525 pass attempts. And if we look at their median, where that places them under Mike Zimmer, that's 24th in the league for pass attempts, and that's not enough volume for a third wide receiver. It's already cutting it close with Adam Thielen. Justin Jefferson is the main guy, and Adam Thielen is going to be the secondary veteran over there. There just really isn't much room for anybody else, and that's including maybe Irv Smith too, but that's another conversation.
So I felt a lot better about this before I looked up the stats for the Vikings last year. So I looked, and their third wide receiver, which was Chad Beebe, which is not a good third wide receiver, only had 30 targets all year. So obviously the first two wide receivers, Jefferson and Thielen, and then they got Smith. I never remember his name, from Iowa. So to be that third wide receiver this year. But I think D.D. would probably fight for snaps there. But after looking at that, I don't know, like you said, if there's enough volume. But maybe if there's a better third wide receiver, he could take some of Thielen's snaps. I don't think Jefferson's snaps will be taken. But last year, 2019 with Didi, I looked it up. He played 15 games, 14 over 50% snap share, and 8 of those games he scored at least 10 fantasy points. So he's a guy you could kind of stash at the end of your bench, I guess, with some hope that something might happen. But I think you are right. After I looked into what the Vikings have done recently, it doesn't look like there's much room, especially if Irv Smith or Tyler Conklin are going to have higher amounts of targets for that team.
And to recent memory, he's the most talented third wide receiver on that team that I can recall. I can't recall anybody that was better than him as far as third on that roster spot. Also, that guy you were thinking about, Amir Smith-Marset, that's the guy you were thinking about, right? The rookie.
Yes, I always get his names mixed up. Like which one goes where?
He has 3 names. So it's a little more, but he's somebody interesting because he was a playmaker in college, big yak guy, big playmaker guy, get in space guy. I think we'll see him a lot on special teams, but you never know with what we saw from Justin Jefferson last year, just completely displacing Chad Beebe, who was supposed to be the second going into the year out of training camp. It kind of scared people off Justin Jefferson, and before we knew it, Justin Jefferson was dominating the league by like week 3. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Amir Smith-Marset, maybe take over for Dede Westbrook, but probably not. Dede Westbrook is still a really great talent. I think he'll have a lock on that third wide receiver spot. Oh, before we go on, I just want to compliment you on the opening music and the sequence. I like the music a lot. I like that song a lot. I don't know where you found it, but it sounds really good, and I like what you've done now. Just in case you don't know, Brandon Hay, what we're doing now, what he's doing, he's building the opening sequence around the topics that we'll be discussing. So a little bit of a teaser for you, a little bit of teaser for you guys watching, just so you guys know what's coming up.
Yeah, so the music, I actually looked into that because I found out for the first episode, the song that we used, I guess for the site, it's Epidemic Music, and I guess once your trial ends, then there's like some copyright issues if you put it on YouTube and everything, which I wasn't aware of. So I decided to look on YouTube, and they have free music. Found that. And like you said, we're going to start, trying to throw some of that stuff in the opening video about that. So you can look forward to those opening videos, throw in a couple funny clips, throw in some clips that have to do with kind of the fun topics we're going to talk about every night. So the Nets news, go ahead.
Sorry, I'm sorry to cut you off. Did you ever play an instrument in elementary school or anything like that? Were you ever part of a band or anything like that?
I played. We had to play the recorder in elementary school. That's as far as I went.
I still have my flute from like 7th grade band, so I can bust that out, and you can get like on like an empty bucket, and we can just avoid all this like copyright crap, and we can just do our own thing and just make our own song. Right?
I think that might be something we need to do.
Clever. I'm sorry. All right, let's get on with the show. I'm sorry. We digress. Sorry.
No, it's fine. So this is what happens when we stream live. So everyone gets to catch it. Yes, and so next, I think it was yesterday, maybe Anthony Miller got traded to the Texans. It didn't say for what, but I heard it's going to be some late compensation. So a couple things, the Texans, looks like Deshaun Watson showed up to camp. But for the second receiver, what does this do? Is it Anthony Miller? Is it Nico Collins? And then also for the Bears, what does that do for their third wide receiver? I'll let you go first on your thoughts for the Texans and the Bears.
I think the Texans. I think Nico Collins remains the favorite for that number 2 position behind Brandon Cooks. I think he's there more to compete with Kiki QT for that slot position. I'm not high. I like Kiki QT way better than I like Miller. I think Miller has not really done much to prove his worth. I mean, he's shown some flashes here and there, but they're few and very far between. Kiki QT's primary issues have been health, so he's just another depth piece. And as we've seen, the Houston Texans have brought in so many depth pieces. They brought in Mark Ingram at running back. They brought in Phillip Lindsay at running back. They brought in Rex Burkhead at running back. They're just signing everybody willy-nilly. I don't know what they're doing over there. But don't concern yourself with Anthony Miller, is my opinion. I'd really just be focused on Brandon Cooks and Nico Collins. And I think Nico Collins is the only guy of his archetype on that team. He's a monster. There's nobody else like him on that team. So I think he'll be the favorite for number 2 duties. And as for the Bears, I was just checking out the Bears stats. When we're discussing Daz Newsome on that team, we also have to take into consideration that they have Demir Bird, who, who's a pretty solid, he's a pretty solid Wiley veteran. He's experienced. But I think when we have to consider Daz Newsome, he'll be the number 3 on that team behind Allen Robinson and Darnell Mooney, respectively. And we have to look at how many times they play out of 11-man personnel. If you don't know what 11-man personnel is, that's basically just means that they're playing with one running back, 1 tight end, which leaves 3 wide receivers on the line of scrimmage, right? So the Bears in 2020, they ran 11-man personnel 56% of the time. That was 20th in the league, right? Then in 2019, they were 15th in the league, and in 2018, they were 18th in the league. So I also, with this offense, I wouldn't really be concerned with who the 3rd wide receiver is, because just the volume, it seems like, isn't really there for the amount of 3 wide receiver sets they run out of there, unless you're playing, again, in a deep league where you must be in a very deep league that would be desperate for that 3rd wide receiver position. If Justin Fields comes in, or even if Andy Dalton does well and is proving to be efficient in the, behind the line of scrimmage as a passer, and he's, providing good opportunities for his passers, then be concerned with that 3rd wide receiver position. But other than that, I really wouldn't be too concerned with that right now. More of a wait and see.
Yeah. So I don't know if you saw, but I kept on cutting out while you were talking. I don't know, something's going on with my internet, but anyway. So yeah, I agree with most of what you're saying. My thing with the Texans is, even if Watson isn't suspended, I would imagine he's going to stick with wanting to be traded. And I think eventually they might trade Brandon Cooks, because there's no reason to really keep him on that team since they're rebuilding. And then maybe it's Nico and Anthony Miller on the, the main 2 receivers. But for Houston, I don't see it as big. But for the Bears, I don't remember where I heard it, but I think they plan on getting A-Rob some more slot snaps. Last year, he only had 21%. Anthony Miller had 86% of their slot snaps. So they could put Mooney outside and Bird, like you said, outside, and then put A-Rob in the slot. And then they also drafted Daz Newsome, but in college, he had 97% of his snaps in the slot. So I doubt he can really do much on the outside. So it kind of, I would think that when they put A-Rob in the slot, they would bring in Bird, who I think is a decent receiver, not really fantasy relevant. So I think you're right. A-Rob and Mooney would be the main fantasy relevant players. And Cole Kmet, we talked before, we were both surprised that Jimmy Graham is still on the team. So I don't know what's going to go on with that, but and I believe, let's see. Oh, you are not talking about that. But when we talk about camp battles, maybe we can just briefly talk about the Bears. But so those are the first 2 news items. And the last is, we heard that Marlon Mack is 100% now. And you wanted to make sure that we talked about Marlon Mack. I think we were going to disagree on this.
We don't have to talk about this. I got pooped on Twitter.
Oh yeah.
No, yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just set it up. We're going to talk about what this does for Jonathan Taylor, carry distribution, and then I'll let you start off, since you tried to put this take on Twitter and it pretty much blew up in your face. So let's hear it.
Yeah. So God, where do I even begin with this? Okay, so Frank Russ. Okay, let's talk about this for a second. Okay, so Andrew Luck retires in August of 2019, right? Frank Reich is not planning on you're not planning on establishing a run game when you have Andrew Luck as your quarterback. You're planning on throwing it. And Frank Reich, I think, is a very logical coach. He's a very rational coach. But Luck retired in August. It happened. So they went into the season with Marlon Mack, right? Marlon Mack that year received 71% of all backfield carries. Touches, 71% of total backfield touches. All right, fast forward it to 2020 draft when they knew Luck was not coming back, when they knew Phillip Rivers, old busted Phillip Rivers, not too busted, but old man Rivers was coming to town. They're like, all right, look, we can't do this with Marlon Mack again and Phillip Rivers. We need to draft Jonathan Taylor. Not saying Jonathan Taylor isn't a bad back. He's a great prospect, but there's a difference between. I think there's a lot of people get confused. There's a difference between being a great prospect in college and being a bully to other college people, to other college players, and Jonathan Taylor is that bully, then understanding the nuances of the running back position. And there are nuances. It's just not running and putting your head down. Marlon Mack understands those nuances, and he was successful in Reich's system in 2019. And Reich knows that, and Reich's not going to let that guy go. Even after an Achilles tear, he's still with the team. If Reich didn't want him there, if Reich wasn't confident in him, he wouldn't be on the team, right? So we look at what Jonathan Taylor did last year. Granted, came into a year where there was no offseason training camps, right? So he came in, he had 57% of the total team touches. But we can see that Marlon Mack was supposed to be, I think Marlon Mack was supposed to be a part of that equation. He was supposed to be a part of that backfield committee last year, because emphasizing the run game was evident when you look at the total amount of touches that the Colts had in that backfield last year. They had 405 total running backfield attempts than the Colts last year. That is the most that Frank Reich has had on that team by a wide margin. So it's my belief, when you look at what happened with Luck, when you look at Mack's history in that offense, when you look at how much rushing volume there is in that offense, Mack is going to be involved. Now, I don't know how much that affects JT. I think there isn't actually enough volume to go around where JT is going to be, he's going to get his. I'm still drafting him in the back of the first round. I'm not saying I'm not doing that, but let's not be so absolutist, polarizing. You're wrong, or you're absolutely right. Let's just keep an open mind. Let's just go with an open mind. Let's stop seeing it from a fantasy player's perspective, and let's start understanding from an NFL coach's perspective what they see. That's just basically where I'm at. I'm not saying JT is bad. I'm just keeping an open mind. That's it.
Well, first thing I thought when I saw that was, one, that you were wrong, and two, that a lot of people are going to be upset immediately. Yes. So I kind of looked at it as, before the pod, of a fantasy and NFL perspective. So JT last year averaged around 15 carries a game for the season. And then I looked up the top 50 running backs last year, at the top 50 in fantasy. Only 10 of those running backs averaged 15 or more carries a game. So I think the NFL definitely, as you're saying, is changing to not have just one back. But I think every team does that. So I don't know if the Mac coming back 100% really changes much, because last year Wilkins had around 80 carries. So I would think Mac would have that. So it probably doesn't change that much. And I kind of looked up, the top 11 running backs, and then two that are kind of similar to JT in that they're going to be workhorse running backs but not get a lot of catches, like Nick Chubb and Josh Jacobs. Their rookie year, they had 46% for Chubb and 55% of the of the snaps their rookie year, and obviously that increased. Chubb missed some time last year. So, and then also kind of, I didn't think I did this, but I did projections for the Colts, and I actually had Mac in there. So I have JT as having 55% of the carries, Naheem Hines at 17%, and Mac at 12%. And even just at the 55% of the carries, I still have JT as running back 7. So like you said, I think he's still a running back 1. I think this hurts Hines probably more. He gets, a few less carries and maybe some less, less catches, be on the field a little less. But I agree with what you're saying. A lot of people come very hot on Twitter with the takes. So I'm sure you got the brunt of that.
As Twitter, it doesn't offend me anymore. There's a slight sting for the first second, and I'm just like, oh, this is adorable. This is just, we're just being children. It's just a bunch of grown men being children, so it's fun. I don't take it personally anymore.
All right, well, that's good. So I guess we didn't differ nearly as much as I thought we were going to at first. So let's go into another thing that we're going to try to do every week is we're either, for the listeners, send in a fantasy trade, or I'll try to find one. This one is actually a perspective trade I found. So let me put it on the screen. So it would be Dallas Goddard and Darnell Mooney, or you get the side of Evan Ingram and Elijah Moore. So I will start, and I would take the side of Elijah Moore and Evan Ingram, mostly just because of Elijah Moore. To be honest, even if Evan Ingram wasn't in this trade, it was just Elijah Moore or Goddard and Mooney, I might still take the Elijah Moore side. I have him, in Dynasty, being a top 20 wide receiver, even starting this year. I think they're going to get the ball to him a ton. I think he is going to end up being the best receiver of that team. So that's what I would take. While I think Mooney will do very well with Justin Fields, kind of talked before the show, surprised that the Eagles have not either traded or let go of Ertz. So I don't know what Goddard's really going to do. And with Jalen Hurts, I'm not sure how much he's going to target the tight end in the new offense. So that's the side I would go on this trade. What are your thoughts?
I always approach when I look at these trades, anyways, especially when it comes to tight ends, I automatically default to tight end premium. I don't know. Do you look at tight end premium? Do you see it as a tight end premium? I feel like that's what we're used to. Anyways, yeah, go ahead. Yeah. Well, how do you see it?
Yeah. Most of them I'm in, or at least half a point something tight end premium.
Right.
So yeah, that is big.
So I'd go with Goddard and Mooney in this instance because I think Mooney's already got the starting job locked up. He's not competing with any other wide receivers. It's just him and Allen Robinson. And when you look at Elijah Moore, he's still got Crowder there. There's still Corey Davis there. Keelan Cole's apparently a name on the radar over there. And then Denzel Mims is a buy low. I don't believe this BS about Denzel Mims not being good anymore. This is ridiculous. So there's a lot more competition over there. You have Zach Wilson, who I believe is not a better quarterback than Justin Fields. I think Justin Fields is a better quarterback. So I take Mooney over Elijah Moore, and I think Goddard is a better tight end than Ingram. I think in this instance, I'll just put up with Zach Ertz if he doesn't get traded by the start of the season, and just put up with Zach Ertz. And Goddard will still produce, but at more of a moderate, high end tight end too. I don't know why he's. I think his tight end one ranking so far is on the expectation that and the assumption that Ertz is going to be traded by the year's end, which he wasn't. So I think you'll see Goddard start to move down in rankings. But if anything, Zach Ertz, he's got to be traded by the end of the 2021 season. So I'll wait it out with Goddard. I like Goddard a lot more better than I like Ingram. And then I like Mooney because I don't have to wait for that volume, that guaranteed volume to get to him. I think he's going to be a producer right from the season's start this year. So I'll take the Goddard Mooney.
No, I like that. One thing with Evan Ingram, even though a lot of people think he's not very good, he does get targeted quite a bit, gets open, has a lot of drops. So if he can fix that, I think he could still be, a tight end one. So that's why I took the Elijah Moore side. But obviously, I think I would trust Goddard more because he seems to be more consistent with catching the ball.
And dude, Ingram could be one of the best sleepers of this year's draft. And I'm not going to hold catches against him because, for me, I'm the biggest Deontay Johnson truther, and he led the league in catches. But if you look at who led the league in catches the year before that, it was Julian Edelman. The year before that, it was Jarvis Landry. And behind Jarvis Landry in 2018, it was Calvin Ridley. And these guys are all not having those issues. This year, behind Deontay Johnson, we had Jerry Jeudy, we had CeeDee Lamb, we had these really great talents with drop issues, like 8-9 drops, So Ingram, I think, might be one of the best buy low options at tight end. So, thinking about it, reflecting on it, Ingram, Elijah Moore might be the better choice, but I'll stick with my guns and go Goddard Mooney.
Okay, sounds good. So now we're going to get into our would you rather fun topic. So the first topic is our top 5 tailgate foods. So do you just want to give your 5 first, and then I'll give my 5, and then we can talk about them?
Sure. No, I think you should go first because I feel like I'm gonna be on the defense for mine, and I want to be ready to defend it. So you go ahead first.
Okay. I didn't really put them in order per se, but what I have is nachos / 7-layer dip. Whenever I go to a tailgate, I make this 7-layer dip. It doesn't have any meat in it, but it has guacamole, sour cream, cheese, tomatoes, onions. So it's easy to do. You don't have to heat it. You don't have to worry about that. And it's fairly inexpensive, so I always do that. Another thing that I always like is cocktail shrimp. I think they're so good. I know in the Florida heat, you have to eat them fast, so that's a problem sometimes. Another next one is sliders. I like when for a tailgate either at outside for a football game or at someone's house. I like it to be a lot of finger food, so you can just grab something as you go get a beer or something. So sliders, either pulled pork, chicken, burgers, and obviously Net's wings. But I'm very picky about. I want them to be super crispy. I'm very picky about the wings that I get, and I know we talked about this earlier. And when you go into yours, we talked about veggies, but I don't mind. With all this heavy meat, a little veggie, ranch tray with celery and carrots and tomatoes and.
We're
I actually like
men.
olives. Yeah, I like olives a lot too. So a little olive and cheese tray would be nice for me. So, let's hear your 5.
Yeah, so I chose a spinach dip just because it's a favorite of mine. Every time I go to my cousin's house, it's always out there. Like you said, wings, crispy. They got to be crispy. Hot dogs with the work. So that's like whether it's relish, onions, whatever you want to put on there, man. I mean, hot dogs are great because it's very easy to handle. You got a beer here or you're playing football on the other hand. You don't have to worry about a mess with hot dogs. It's so convenient. It works so good. Ribs, you got to sit down for that. You got to take a break from all the activities and hang out with all your friends and go sit down and eat some ribs and take your time with that. So they're a little bit more of a pain in the butt. And then, like we said, you got to have salad. We got to clean that palate. We got to get those greens in there, settle down all that grease and all that oil. So those are my 5.
So the hot dogs, I'm actually not a huge hot dog guy, but for Memorial Day we had a barbecue and had people over, and I made hamburgers and hot dogs, and then I made some chili, got some onions and all that stuff. So I do love hot dogs with all the works. What
about
my wife? Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was to say, what about like a breakfast food? Like, what about like waffles or pancakes?
I would be for that. So I live in Jacksonville, so home of the largest, outdoor cocktail party. So a lot of times when we went, my mom would be worried that we would just drink too much and not eat enough. So she would make a lot of like breakfast stuff, and I would go to her house before we would get there like 6 a.m, and we would have like breakfast food, in the morning. So I am all for that. So maybe cocktail weenies or some, a nice breakfast quiche or something.
Ooh, that sounds like a frittata.
Yes. So that is totally. So you didn't differ, or your list wasn't as veggie oriented as I thought it would be.
Yeah, not too much. I mean, I can go pure veggies, but I don't want to be like the lame. Like I can just do straight veggies, but I can mix it up. I can hang out. I can mix it up with you cavemen. I can eat the meat.
So I was saying too, spinach dip. That's another thing my wife really likes. I think if you have a lot of variety of dips, that everyone likes, I think that's a positive.
For sure. Agreed.
So so I think those are some good lists. And what we're going to do on our Twitter account, when we come up with the questions for the week, we're going to put them out. So please, respond or comment on there, and then we'll make sure to drop your Twitter handle and what you say, to get some more engagement. So now the next question is: would you rather be Batman or Iron Man?
You want to go first on this one? You want me to go first? This is more than a Batman or Iron Man question. This is a DC versus Marvel question, right? This is what this is to me. And I'm a Marvel guy. Like I am not going to choose. I will choose the worst character in Marvel over the best character in DC. Like I am going Iron Man all day. Give me that crazy suit. Give me the flight. Give me all the tech. I want to be homies with Jarvis. Jarvis is the coolest guy on the block. I mean, like, dude, are you kidding me? Like, I could be downstairs with my toys, just doing things in the air, put all my different armor suits on, get to hang out with the Avengers all the time. Rich. Batman is rich, but he can't fly. I'd rather be the rich guy that could fly without a plane. So I'm choosing Iron Man.
So I agree that I like Marvel over DC, and my thing has always been with Batman is he doesn't have any superpowers or anything. He just like has a lot of gadgets. I mean, he is super rich, so
he's got a belt.
Yeah, he has a belt, and I really like Iron Man. I think it helps too that it's Robert Downey Jr. that's portrayed Iron Man. But which he's super cool. But I do have this one question for Iron Man. I feel like he could have done better than Pepper than Gwyneth Paltrow. I think he could have gotten a better leading lady.
Easy with the Pepper Potts hate, man. That girl is a dime a dozen. She's an angel. She busts her ass for Stark Industries day in and day out. She deals with Tony's BS every single day. I love that woman. Hey, she's also a superhero too because she's got her own set of armor, right? Tony made her own set of armor, so that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's another question. How many different people has armor? I feel like there's like 4 different people in Marvel that just randomly get Iron Man armor. So I've always wondered about that too.
There's an Ironheart series coming out, right? And then there's also War Machine that's got his own armor. So that's 4 people. And then there's Ironheart, which is a younger female who's getting her own show on Disney Plus. And I have that comic book. I bought it for $4 and it's worth like $50 right now.
Nice.
I'm gonna put that. Yeah.
So you said you would take the worst character on Marvel over Batman. So who would you say is the worst character of the Avengers?
Hawkeye.
Okay, thank you. But I think I might pick Batman over Hawkeye.
It's close. I can't do it. I can't do DC. I'll take Hawkeye. Sorry.
Well, yeah. In Endgame, I was very in Endgame, I was very upset that that Scarlett Johansson, Black Widow, was the sacrifice rather than Hawkeye. I was like, is anyone really going to miss Hawkeye in the series?
No, nobody's going to miss him. Nobody's going to miss him. No, it's just ridiculous. Should have been Hawkeye, man. It's ridiculous.
All right, I'm glad we can agree on that. And back to the Batman part, I think it would depend too if we're talking about movie Batmans, which type of Batman we're talking about. If we're talking about the Dark Knight, it's a little closer, I would think, than some of the others. I don't know if that's the same for you.
I'm probably gonna have to go old school Keaton.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I'm a traditionalist. Plus, I think that car is the sickest. That old classic Batman. I'm just a traditionalist. I like the style. I like what Tim Burton did with the movie. I think it was just this certain aesthetic, and I just really like. I just like him as Batman. Christian Bale as Batman wasn't great. What other Batman? George Clooney, Val Kilmer. Who else is there?
I forgot that they were Batman.
Ben Affleck.
Oh, that was horror. Oh, I don't know, but the Batman versus Superman, I thought that was a horrible movie.
Yeah, that was horrible. The Snyder Cut, though, of the Justice League. Did you see it? Did you watch it?
I haven't, but I heard it's a lot better. But I heard it's like 4 hours long.
It's beautiful. There was a scene in there. There was a scene in there with Flash that I almost cried. I thought it was the most gorgeous thing I've ever seen in my life. It's Snyder is a master. He's a master. He's awesome. I'll just leave it at that. My favorite scene is the Flash scene. When you watch it, we'll talk about it. I'm not going to say anything.
Okay, I will make that a priority to check that out.
Yeah, check it out.
All right, so we'll move back into football now that we kind of are finished nerding out about Marvel and DC, mostly Marvel. So now we're going to talk about some training camp battles that we kind of want to see. So I'll start with one, and then you can do one, and we'll kind of go back and forth.
Go for it.
So the first one for me is the 49ers running back situation. I know everyone is huge on Trey Sermon, which I like Trey Sermon a lot, but I don't think it's a given he's taking over that backfield. I know Jeff Wilson is injured, and Raheem Mostert seems to be injured a lot too, but kind of looking back at it, last year when Mostert played, he was number 6 in yards created per touch. And when Jeff Wilson was the last one standing at the end of the season, his last 3 games, fantasy points per game were 12, 27, and 23. I just think it's going to be a mix and match. I don't think Shanahan cares who gets the ball. I think there's going to, for some reason, there's always injuries. I just think he's going to play whoever is, running the hardest or running the best each game. Maybe Sermon gets a stretch where he plays 4 or 5 games, where he's the guy. But then again, in college, Sermon had some injury troubles too. So we don't know if, he's going to last the whole season. So I kind of want to see how that will kind of break down with, all those carries. But we probably won't even know until, midway or the end of the season how this is really going to go. That's why I've somewhat tried to avoid that backfield if I can, unless I'm in, some sort of best ball format. So what's your first and what's your opinion on that 49ers backfield?
I think you made really good points about it. I think Kyle Shanahan approaches each matchup he approaches each game based on matchup. Mostert is, typically the favorite to lead there, but the guy's is just always old and busted. He's 29, mid 29s going on 30. Mostert is the next back. That profile is as the early down back, the goal line back. Jeff Wilson's out. We got Wayne Gallman. He's pretty much a jag. He had a nice year last year as RB2, filling in for Saquon Barkley. We got Elijah Mitchell over there, who's an athletic standout. But yeah, if I'm taking anybody, I'm kind of approaching this like the Patriots backfield I do every single year, which is basically just take the cheapest option available. And I'm afraid that Trey Sermon is probably going to surpass Raheem Mostert by the end of August, and we're going to be getting Raheem Mostert at a beautiful discount. And that guy, and I think when you're playing these guys, they're just kind of like desperate, plug them in as RB2s and hope that you have good floor and some upside on your roster, and just get whatever you can get from the 49ers running back as an RB2 flex. So my first team is the Lions, and I know the Lions, the teams I listed aren't so much battles where we don't know, where it's kind of ambiguous, it's not so vague, but we know that, we have a new coaching staff in Detroit. We know that they brought in Jamal Williams. Jamal Williams is a solid running back. He's not just depth piece. He serves a purpose on teams, We saw what he did with the Packers. I know that the running backs coaches for the Lions went to watch the pro day specifically to see not Jamal Williams, the running back at UNC. There's Michael Carter, and I forgot his name. The other guy, the guy that went to
Javonte Williams.
Javonte Williams. They went to scout those 2 running backs, so they were interested in finding some running back depth. They didn't sign anybody else. They got the other, I forgot the rookie, not Jarrett Patterson, but the other rookie, Jamar Jefferson, I believe. So they did bring in some running back. They bring in some running back depth. I just want to see what they do with Swift. I still love Swift as a talent. Again, I'm not saying he's worse, but I want to check that out just to make sure I know what the splits are. I think Swift will be the lead back, but I think it's going to be more of a hot hand situation. I'm just, again, approaching this one with caution. I think Swift's ADP is okay going at like the 2-3 turn, beginning of the 3. He does have that receiving upside. We do know that, receptions or targets are worth about 1.5 points more than carries. So just keep my eyes out on that backfield split.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. Kind of like how I mentioned earlier about most bats aren't getting 20 carries a game anymore. And at least from what Campbell said, in his press conferences, when he wasn't talking about biting people's knees, he was talking about, Swift kind of being like Kamara and New Orleans since he was in New Orleans. So I think they could do that to have Jamal Williams kind of the Latavius Murray type back, kind of a little bit more between the tackle and Swift. Still running and getting those passes. So I agree on that. So my second camp battle is the Jets running backs. I really don't have any idea how that's going to go. I know a lot of people are really excited about Michael Carter, but I think his ADP is really too high because we don't know what you're getting from him. And then with Tevin Coleman, he was in San Francisco where Solid was. In 2019, he was running back 39 with around a 9.7 fantasy points per game, which isn't great. But I mean, he's not a scrub, so they might, just want to use a lot of bats like San Francisco did. And Ty Johnson, he's kind of getting hyped up in, the fantasy space, but he only had 2 games last year with double-digit carries. Well, Michael Perrine from Florida, I had high hopes for him last year, and he hasn't really done anything. So I just want to see how that what we're hearing from camp, who's kind of leading. Are they going to give it right out of the gates to Michael Carter, or is he going to have to, kind of gain it through midway through the season? So that's what I'm kind of looking for the Jets. So what do you think about that Jets running back situation? And also what's your second camp battle you're looking at?
So I think that the Michael Carter situation, the Jets, we just saw a blur put out by the Athletics' Connor Hughes, who quote said, rookie running back Michael Carter is going to be the eventual 1A in the Jets backfield. I think we got to approach this kind of backfield. Like I do think he's the most talented back on the backfield in that backfield. Michael Perrine, he doesn't suck. Ty Johnson, he's going to serve a role in that offense. I think we got to approach this backfield to the one that we were just discussing that you brought up, which is the 49ers backfield, because Salah came from the 49ers as a defensive coordinator. He was using that. I think he's going to use that offensive template. He adopted the offensive template as far as the running back goes, and I think they're all going to just serve their own purpose. Michael Carter is a great back. He kind of profiles kind of somebody like CEH, one that knows how to manipulate linebackers, one that knows how to read the blocks. He's great in space. He's a great pass catcher, really, really good pass catcher, but he is a tiny bit undersized. I don't really believe Tevin Coleman was going to serve a purpose, just some veteran depth if needed to be called on. So, yeah, like this one, just shoot your shot. Just don't get too over-invested in it. I don't believe anybody's really going to be a league winner. The Jets' offensive line hasn't really been upgraded to a point where they're going to be creating a bunch of holes for running backs. Just approach with caution with ADP. Don't get too aggressive with these things, I think. If I was taking anybody, it would be Michael Carter, but nothing before like the 8th round. So yeah. And my second backfield, like I said, these aren't competitions, but again, I want to look at splits primarily because of value. I'm looking at the Packers. My second one is the Packers backfield because I believe that A.J. Dillon is a great value. He's not going too early, but he's starting to creep up a little bit. We were just discussing Jamal Williams and the Lions. Jamal Williams served as a secondary running back on the Packers last year. A.J. Dillon's coming to fill in. We saw A.J. Dillon just go nuts on the Titans last year to close out the season. I believe it was week 16, actually. We saw the upside that A.J. Dillon brings as a different type of running back than Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones is a smaller pass-catching running back. He's great, but A.J. Dillon is a massive human being, and I think they're going to use him in a lot of different packages. I think it's important to keep an eye on this backfield in training camp and watch, especially in preseason how he performs. If he's doing well in preseason, expect that momentum to carry over. Again, watch what we're doing with this because we know that the coach of the Packers, while he was on the Titans previously, he didn't really use Derrick Henry the way he should have been using Derrick Henry, the bigger back. He was using DeMarco Murray stubbornly a lot. So keep your eyes on the A.J. Dillon situation. I think he's a great stash. If you're going to stash any handcuff, A.J. Dillon is a great stash. Put that one away because if Aaron Jones goes down, and we know he's gone down, he's missed time during every season. He's been a starting running back. A.J. Dillon's going to be the man. He's going to win you some weeks, baby. I'm telling you.
So, yeah, I agree with that. I would say before Rodgers came or supposedly is coming back to play Green Bay. I was a little higher on Dillon because I figured with Jordan Love they would run the ball even more than they have. But I agree. This even went back to when McCarthy was the coach at the Packers. They don't want to just give Aaron Jones all of the touches. Even with Jamal Williams was there, they would give him catches and even give him goal line carries. So, but Aaron Jones is obviously still a run in the running back one conversation just because he scores so many touchdowns, and Aaron Rodgers likes to use him and dump the ball off to him a lot, and that offense should still be very good, and especially since they really only have Devontae Adams and Robert Tonyan as receiving options. So my last battle is with the Dolphins wide receiver depth chart. I've never been huge on Tua, but I don't think he's as low as people make him out to be. I don't think his ceiling is as high. I think he could be a quality starter in the NFL. I don't know if he can be an elite quarterback, top 5, like some people thought when he was at Alabama at times. But I just want to see, because they still have Devontae Parker there. I think he would be more of the possession type receiver, but they've got Will Fuller, who is a downfield threat, but he does deal with, the injuries, and I believe he might still be suspended a game or two. And then mostly I want to see Jalen Waddle, because I really like Jalen Waddle's game. There have been some people that have said that, he's gonna be like Henry Ruggs, but I think he has a totally different skill set. Speed, but he's very good at high pointing the ball and fighting for the ball. I think he's more polished and more better overall receiver. So I want to see how they're going to use all those wide receivers, and to see who really will be the number one, or will they just have kind of a 1A and 1B, or maybe a 1A, 1B, and 1C, all three evenly distributed. So
Right.
that's what I want to see with the Dolphins.
Yeah, and we saw that Preston Williams got put on PUP, unable to play. So I think he's going to be pretty much a forgotten option in the Dolphins' pass receiving options. Will Fuller, we know that he's a great, he's super productive, but that was with Deshaun Watson. I love Jalen Waddle. I think he would have been in discussion for a Heisman had he played last year. Devontae Parker. Do you want to go down that road? Do you want to do that? Do you want to take Devontae Parker? Or do you want to take somebody with upside? Like Jalen Waddle or Will Fuller, because I would be drafting those two above Devontae Parker. Devontae Parker is a value, but I'm not taking him before Jalen Waddle or Will Fuller, especially if I have like solid floor receivers. If I have like Keenan Allen, Allen Robinson, receivers of that talent, of that breed on my team, and I have solid floor, high upside guys, I don't want Devontae Parker clogging in my roster spot. I want somebody who's going to put up some massive weeks when I need them to. So it's also dependent on how Tua reacts, how Tua comes out in his second year. I know the Dolphins use a lot of running tight ends. I know they did, because I had Mike Gesicki in my team last year, and I got so tired of seeing guys like Dalton Smythe or Durham Smythe, and gosh, God, even know Adam Shaheen. I don't want to think about that. That was just such a bummer, just not seeing Gesicki get like red zone targets. Anyways, my last team to look at is the Raiders backfield. This one's disgusting. This is so bad. We got Kenyon Drake and we got Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs is such a great running back, and John Gruden completely misutilizes his talent. I'm trying not to get angry. He gave away all his offensive pieces, his offensive linemen. They're all gone. I don't know what he's doing. They have the big, oh God, what's his name? I forgot. I'm blanking on his name. Anyways, they don't really have, I don't know what they're doing over there. Kenyon Drake is going to be eating it to Josh Jacobs'. Can you hear how depressed I am just talking about this right now? I can't even talk about this right now. I'm so tired of John Gruden. We got to watch their backfield. We got to see what they do with Kenyon Drake. Kenyon Drake is the assumption is that Kenyon Drake is going to go in. He's going to take all the pass catching work, because John Gruden hates to have Josh Jacobs as a pass catcher. Get it? Kenyon Drake is not a better running back than Josh Jacobs is. He's just going to be like the new pass catching option. It scares me though, because Kenyon Drake, I believe out of all running backs, Kenyon Drake did have the most rushing attempts on the. I think he was actually the most successful inside the 5 out of most running backs, and I think he actually had the most attempts inside the 5. I have to double check that. It was a long time. It was a long time since I saw that. But yeah, that's the final backfield I'm looking at. And in that same breath, Josh Jacobs has fallen. I saw somebody just say on Twitter that they drafted Josh Jacobs in the 7th round of their draft. I'm taking Josh Jacobs every single day at that point. That's crazy. So that's my last backfield to look at.
Right. Yeah. I don't love Jacobs, coming into this year, even years prior, because I don't know why, but Gruden just uses him so weird. Like at Alabama, they used him on screens and stuff. I'm like, just throw him the ball. He's way better. I would much rather him get the ball than Jalen Richard or what other crappy running backs they throw out there. And all they really have is Darren Waller. We don't know what's going on with the wide receivers. I do think John Brown's kind of a sleeper for them because I don't know what's going on with Rudds and Brian Edwards. So, and it's weird because when they first got Kenyon Drake, they said they were going to use him out at wide receiver. And then when they said that, why didn't you just keep Lynn Bowden if you're going to do that? He would have been way cheaper.
Yeah.
He was on a rookie deal, and they just traded him before he even played a game. I don't know what the Raiders are doing. John Gruden has that. Doesn't he have a ridiculous contract? It's
insane. They owe him millions. They owe him so much money. I don't understand that organization. How is this happening? What is happening with the Raiders, dude? I don't understand it, dude. They drafted Henry Ruggs, then they bring in John Brown. I don't understand what they're doing over there, man. They just are so bad. I don't know who their scouts are. I don't know who their talent evaluators are. They're first round picks every single year. They have so many options to choose from, and they just don't pull the trigger on just take this consensus top talent in the draft. But they keep going with these contrarian picks that you're like, what? I have to sometimes I have to Google the people they look up in the first round. I'm like, I've never even heard of this guy.
No, I agree, and I will say I was wrong because I thought Henry Ruggs would be better. But even if he's not, if you find out, during the season he's not as good, you picked him in the first round. You got to find ways to get him the ball. There has to be a way to get him the ball. There shouldn't be times when he doesn't. He should. If you have a receiver that you draft in the first round that isn't horrible, horrible hands like Darius Hayward-Bay or, RJ Soward or something like that, that can at least catch the ball, you should get him the ball at least 5 times a game. And I don't understand what they're doing. So I agree with that. And I think that is going to be a little bit of a mess. I don't really like Kenyon Drake and what you're talking about. I checked on the Arizona backfield last year, and he had 10 touchdowns last year. So they did give him the ball a ton inside the 10. So that is concerning. That's why, in some of these charity type tournaments, I've been picking up Drake, late because who knows, he could have some weeks where he's usable and everything. Because I usually wait on running back when I do those type of drafts. So yeah, I think that's all these camps could be somewhat fantasy relevant, and it seems like all of these will be a little bit of a mess, other than the Packers, because Aaron Jones will still be solid this year. Just depends on how much AJ Dillon will really take, and if they utilize him properly. I don't know if Rodgers is just going to try to stick it to the Packers and try to throw it 3,000 times a game, or what's going to happen.
With AJ Dillon, the guy is over 6'1". He's 208,000 pounds. The guy is, I don't know how he isn't a factor on the goal line next year. I don't know how you look at that running back and you're just saying don't give it to him at the goal line. That's all I'm saying. It's just
that is very true, because say you're in a little bit, you could play him at flex. You got to think he gets. There's going to be a couple games where he has, a couple touchdowns and some good yardage. And like you said, he's a perfect pickup, for as a handcuff, even if you don't have Aaron Jones, and just kind of if you go the zero running back route and just wait, and then you possibly have someone later on. So, that's that's really the only one that I think could be super fantasy relevant in our camp battles. But all these battles will be interesting to see, what they're going to do. A couple of new coaches in there. So yeah, so I think that's great. So that's all of our show tonight. So I'm glad for everyone that joined, and we got some comments in here. So for this week, I'm Brandon Hay at Hay B3.
I'm Z Cancer FF. Zareh Cancer Bedian.
All right, see you guys next week.
Thank you guys. See ya.